streaming at work.
Cody, are you ready?
I am.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Long Lake Township Planning Commission to order. Let's all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Cody, can you do the roll call, please?
I can. Paulson? Wagner?
Here.
Verche?
Here.
Springsteen? Allen?
Here.
And Wyand and Bott are absent and excused.
Okay, we all have an agenda before us. Are there any changes to that agenda? Cody?
I have one quick. On item 9B, I realized that the site plan review number was not included with the CLU, so it should say CLU 052603 and site plan review 052604. Those are in conjunction.
Thank you. Anything else, anybody? And motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
Motion by Vershave, second by Paulson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. Conflict of interest statement. Is there anyone on the Planning Commission that has a conflict with anything on the agenda tonight? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. We'll move on to public comment. Is there any, do you usually read something before? We just do? Okay.
We
I know
don't. The Township Board does,
yeah. Okay.
but we do not usually.
So you'll see at the end of your agenda, there's the rules for making public comment, and I'd like to open that now. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to us?
Kay Ingraham. I would appreciate the board waiting on any changes to the North Activity Center until we have a being about. I'm concerned about construction traffic and more traffic at that dangerous intersection. I also am asking this board to follow Green Lake Township's lead and place a moratorium on data centers.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Are you interested in making public comment? That's where we are right now. Okay. Don't want to leave you out. Okay, great. Thank you. Then public comment is closed for this. Then we do have in correspondence, we do have a correspondence that was in your packet. Did you all see that and were able to read it?
Yep.
Okay. Then there's none, no other. Is that correct, Cody?
Correct. We received no further public comment.
Thank you. All right, approval of minutes. You also have the April 28th minutes in your packet. Does anybody have any changes to that? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the minutes of the April meeting, April 28th.
April 28th?
A second.
Then we have a motion by Vershave and a support by Springsteen to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There's no postponed business, so we will move forward to our public hearing on ZOA 02-2601, proposal to amend the zoning ordinance number 109, Article 5, Local Business District, to allow manufactured housing communities as a conditional use, and then add a section 15.5, setting controlling standards. And in addition, changing the minimum parcel area from 15 acres to 10 acres in size. So we will start that with a presentation of a request and memorandum by the planner staff.
Perfect, thank you. And before I forget to mention, we did have some requests from our streaming viewers. If you guys could remember to use mics tonight, they would be very appreciative of that. So just FYI, myself included. Okay, so ZOA 022601, we first started this discussion in February when applicant AEI Roaring Fork came to us looking to change some zoning for the Suburban Estates manufactured housing community that's on the corner of Strait and North Long. During that discussion, they presented an application that would allow manufactured housing communities as defined in the zoning ordinance into Article 15 local business district. That's all the pink parcels there you see on the map behind you and to your sides. After some discussion with commissioners and with the applicant, it was recommended that the applicant further exhaust looking at other options as potential ways of achieving some of their goals. So the applicant came back to staff. We looked at a few different options. One is either they could have left their application how it was, leaving it as a permitted use. Another option we looked at was changing the use to conditional use for local business district. Third option we looked at was conditional rezoning. Of those three, the applicant chose to come back with a conditional land use change in the local business district. Just a word of note for the conditional rezoning. Conditional rezonings, applicants are allowed to ask the Planning Commission to change their underlying zoning district to another zoning district that's in the book with some sort of condition placed on it by the township. So the current one that we have on the township is, if you look where the old Long Lake School used to be next to Hardy Hill Road, that is actually a low-density residential lot. The applicants came to the township at one time, asked to move that to local business so they could put Food for Thought in there. And they are allowed to continue to operate it as Food for Thought and have that use until they forfeit that right or abandon that use, and then they go back to local or low-density residential. So that was the look that we also looked for Suburban Estates. If they were to choose to do that, manufactured housing would be a high-density residential as a conditional use. And so that was the option they were looking at. But the issue with that for this applicant was they're not allowed to change the zoning district they're changing to. So they're also asking that we reduce the minimum acreage from 15 to 10. They wouldn't be able to ask for that change in a conditional rezoning. So that's why they came back to you with a proposal to make it a conditional land use. So to flesh out the final bit of this process, you guys are the recommending body to the township board when it comes to zoning ordinance amendments. So at the end of the day, we will either recommend this change to the board, or we will recommend not adopting this change to the board. The township board has the final say whether this change gets adopted. If the change were to get adopted, the applicant would still have to come back in front of the Planning Commission with a conditional land use application to make this subject parcel legally conforming. Currently, it's a legally existing non-conforming lot, meaning that they are allowed to continue to use the lot as they have been before the zoning rules change, but they can't expand out or move locations of buildings on the lot until they become a legally conforming parcel. So that was a lot of information, so I'll stop there if there's any questions, and then let you ask the applicant from there. We can clarify here in a minute.
I have a question regarding how this impacts any other place that is local business.
Yes.
So if we were to approve this, we wouldn't be looking specifically at Suburban Estates. We would be looking more generally from a planning standpoint for the township, that we would want to make manufactured housing something that can be in any local business district in that potential.
Yep, will you zoom out for me, Matt? So any pink parcel, that would be great. So if the township board adopted this as it's written today, any pink parcel on the map that's greater than 10 acres would be eligible to come before you for a conditional land use to have manufactured housing community. Of the pink parcels listed, the only one greater than 10 acres is the one Suburban Estates currently resides on. So in order for somebody to be eligible, they would have to either have a rezoning of a parcel that's greater than 10 acres or buy multiple parcels and combine them together to be eligible for that use. Will you turn your mic on, Pete? I don't know if it's... Thank you. You're welcome.
Anything else for Cody right now? Okay. Then we'll move on to comments and explanations by the applicant. Would you like to start that?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you again. Nice to meet you, Pete. You weren't here last time. So we're here tonight, obviously after being here in February. We heard what, the public had to say, some of their concerns.
Introduce yourself to us.
Sorry, my apologies. My name's Kyle Stoner. I'm part of AEI Roaring Fork, and I live in San Diego, California. So in February, we were here and we were requesting a zoning change to the local business district for manufactured housing to be a permitted use. When we were here, obviously the four of us, Pete, sorry you were not here. Please ask me any questions that you want to catch you up to where these four were. But we had a discussion about some of the concerns that were brought up by the public, that an adoption of a permitted change would affect all parcels immediately. And so the desire at that time was for us to come back and request that a conditional use be placed within the local business district zoning so that each parcel individually in the future, if they so wanted to, right, could come to ask for that use. Cody, did I state all that correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So we're here for three reasons for our parcel specifically. So the first one is to collaborate with the township for the ongoing concern over the safety of North Long Lake Road. So with the way that the zoning currently exists today, if the implementation of your road improvements were to happen tomorrow, they could not use any portion of our land that currently houses 6 families, including another vacant building. Those 6 families could not be legally moved under the existing zoning code to help assist with the expansion of North Long Lake Road. So that's issue number one. Go ahead, yeah.
Do you want questions along the way?
Yeah, please,
Okay.
whenever, yeah.
I thought, whether you approve of it or not, that the road commission had eminent domain in situations like that.
That may very well be true, but we still can't move anything on the parcel because it's legal non-conforming use. Cody to confirm that.
A government entity does have eminent domain powers, so if the road commission did decide they want to buy that portion of the land, they could displace those 6 houses that are in question if they
But
needed
they
that
just wouldn't be
space.
able to put it somewhere else on their...
Correct, yep, they wouldn't be able to reutilize.
So, yeah, good question. So displacement, not relocation. The second is for the second reason is for the reduction in the minimum acreage for manufactured use from 15 down to 10. So in anticipation of the activity center in the future for the adopted plan, if ourselves or a new potential purchaser of that owner of that property were to split off the vacant land and try to utilize it for something else, the existing mobile home park sits on less than 15 acres. And so we wouldn't be meeting the minimum threshold of the 15 acre size. Cody, is that also correct?
Sorry, I missed part of that. I was
So
looking
the
at that screen.
existing mobile home manufactured housing use sits on greater than 10 acres.
Correct.
So if in anticipation of the activity center, if a manufactured housing expansion didn't take place, but somebody wanted to parcel off the vacant land, the existing manufactured use would be less than 15 acres.
Correct, you wouldn't be allowed, well, yes, because it's existing non-conforming, you couldn't make it less conforming, so you'd have to keep at least 15 acres of it in order to split it.
And then reason 3 would be either our potential expansion of the manufactured housing use or a future owner's expansion of the manufactured housing use. And then the 4th reason would be for a potential advantage for us to work with Eagle for future wastewater permitting of our site. So those are the 4 reasons why we're here asking for the conditional use to be placed under the local business district zoning code.
Any questions, anybody? Okay, thank you.
Oh, good, all right, great. You good, Pete?
I'm not quite sure, you're asking for it to be... sorry, you're asking for it to reduce to 10 acres and then using the 10-acre ask as a reason for the amount. So if you were to ask for the zoning to be 6 acres, then you'd be able to do if the peanut would, if the roundabout happened, you'd still be able to keep your minimum 15, it seems to me.
I'm sorry, can you ask me that question again?
Yeah, that's why I'm not sure if I'm asking it clearly. So you are asking for the zoning to be 10 acres, specifically because you have 10 acres you want to split off. But if the road commission were to take, 6 acres or something like that, if we were to rezone to 7 acres or something, you'd be able to continue working? Is that a correct statement?
If I understand your question correctly, which I think I do, then yes, that's a correct statement. Yeah.
It might be helpful for Pete to hear what we heard last time about the Eagle thing and how they're doing the
Yeah,
What?
sir. So we are, we're in a constant collaborative discussion with our engineers and our infrastructure folks on how to expand our wastewater capabilities. So Eagle has suggested to us that it's their desire that they'd like to see a larger permit allowance for our site. Okay, so currently we're permitted for a 7,000 gallon per day discharge, and they'd like to enforce some rules that previously they didn't choose to enforce on us. And so that will require us to have a much larger wastewater permit that we currently have, which resulted in a significant capital improvement that we were not anticipating, which unfortunately would then thus probably affect some of the homeowners there, which we would like to minimize the impact of. And so one of our strategies is to have 2 separate parcels and 2 separate permits that would actually aggregate to the total permit allowance that they're requesting of us. So that also is a sub-reason for the reduction in acreage from 15 to 10.
No. Anything else? No? Okay, thank you
All right,
again.
thanks.
Okay, question and discussion by commissioners. Thoughts, anybody? Before we go into public comment?
I have questions. I think that when I actually called Cody today to try to get some understanding on this. And, as I've reviewed through the master plan and looking at things, it's pretty clear that people want to support and maintain the manufactured homes park in some fashion because of maintaining affordable housing in the township. And it's really not in a bad location for that. But I guess my questions for the rest of the commissioners is thinking about, as planners and planning, what would be ideal to put in that location? And is there, if we're looking at this as a local business district, we want high-density housing. Why would we not just reclassify part of that property as high-density housing so that they would not need special zoning? They would just be eligible to have it right in that area where they want it.
I think those are the questions we asked last time and we're considering. So Cody probably has more insight on the...
Well,
I'm not advocating one way or the other. It just seems like that if there's a 10-acre piece that they could get classified as high density, and then from a planning standpoint, we have more property that's local business that could be, at some point by them or others developed, if that's where the ultimate, activity center is going.
So my answer to this isn't perfect, but
Okay.
the way I read the master plan says that is an activity center that is we want local commercial there. So it would be hard for me to change local commercial to high density because of that. So that's that. So irregardless of what comes there, right? But there is something existing. That thing is non-conforming. So to me, changing this also makes it conforming, which means they could change things. They could move people around and things like that. And it does say that even for local commercial, that we want more housing choice. So it didn't seem to me that it didn't match with what the master plan or the local, whatever it's called, the activity center plans for there. This is me.
I think too, one of the, and I could just kind of speaking from my situational awareness, if you will, over the last many years, I think a good part of the reason why that northeast part of the township zone high-density residential was in anticipation that that would be the area most likely to be serviced by municipal utilities, that we would get extended into the township from Garfield, which is exactly what's happened. So like Black Bear Farms, they have their own central water system, and now they're getting water through an agreement that we reached between Garfield Township, who in turn reached an agreement with the city to allow them to further subsidize us. So if we did high-density residential there, there's no way to service that with utilities. And given that this already has infrastructure there to satisfy what would be needed if additional manufactured housing were to occur there, it would seem like a pretty logical fit to me to do it conditionally as opposed to just zone it high-density residential, because I don't think you would ever be able to achieve that kind of density without municipal water and sewer available to it. And it'd be quite a lift to get it there from where it dead ends right now.
Yeah, and that may be true. I think that as you read the master plan, or at least as I read it, it does anticipate both moderate and high-density housing in the activity center, and I think this would be high-density housing in my view of it. I don't know if it officially is or not, but and so I understand what you're saying about they'll have their own infrastructure with well and septic. So I understand what you're saying.
Dan or Bob, you have anything right now?
Not right now.
Other Dan? See, two Dans at the same end of the table is a problem. I look there and there's all these Dans. Okay. Okay, then we will move on to opening the public hearing to public comment. Is there anyone interested in making public comment on this issue?
My name is Lloyd Morris, 8178 Barney Road, but I am not speaking for myself tonight. I'm speaking for Commissioner Morris, and she wanted me to read this letter to you. This is her words, not mine, which you'll be able to tell she's much more elegant. Dear Planning Commissioners, I wanted to weigh in on tonight's discussion of manufacturing housing community in Long Lake Township. Unfortunately, due to a required attendance at another meeting, I am unable to speak in person. At the county level, we often discuss affordable housing and the community's overwhelming requests to have more available options. As the Board of Commissioners heard recently during a report from Traverse Connect, zoning often creates barriers to types of housing our growing area needs. Single-family homes are most in demand, but at today's prices, most are not within areas within the means of most making between 80 and 120% of the AMI. Manufactured home community is affordable housing, offering opportunity for single-family or starter homes at affordable prices. We know that the need for housing will continue to grow and must be addressed in a way that makes sense for our township. As a visual impact alone, allowing the addition of more of these types of homes would certainly be preferable than another apartment complex. With the vision in mind of creating opportunities for those seeking attainable housing, I encourage you to look favorably on the request to expand suburban estates. Sincerely, Penny Morris, Commissioner, District 9. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Now it's you.
Now it's me. Lloyd Morris, 8178 Barney Road. As was said in that statement I just read, it talked about affordable housing and starter homes. My wife and I have been very blessed. We have a very nice home, and we've had it for a long time, but it wasn't where we started. I personally, before I met my lovely wife, started out in manufacturing homes. And back in in Kansas, which actually they were called tornado magnets there, because they were. But it was something that a person just out of the Navy, I could afford. And I could afford to have a family there if I was lucky enough to find a woman that would take me. So, and I know when my son and his family, they had to buy a house in Jennings, which is halfway between Lake City and Cadillac, just to be able to afford something. They would love to have lived close to their family, but they live, an hour away now because it's the only thing they could find to afford. So I really like to emphasize the fact that these are starter homes for people who cannot maybe get into a home, and they can build up a little equity in that and then move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I was going to say again.
Chris Crew, 3016 Collier Road. I am certainly in favor of affordable housing, absolutely. What I seem to recall from the last discussion was that the reason this whole presentation of splitting 15 and 10 and possibly splitting 15 to 5 and 10 now is because of the state of Michigan and Eagle requirements. And it seems like there's an awful lot of discussion, and I realize that's a huge capital expense to do this, but it seems that there's an awful lot of discussion and plans being put in place to work around what Eagle has on the table, regardless if it's an old rule or a recent rule or it's been bypassed or it's not been enforced, but it still is the rule. And if Dan came and said, I'm going to build a complex and it's got to have that much septic system capacity, you're not going to be able to work around that. They're going to make you do it, regardless. And if it costs you more money, it's going to cost you more money. So we seem to be trying to figure out how to work around the state of Michigan's rules here. And then again, what I heard also was, and I hadn't heard this before, is that now that if we lower it to 15 or lower it to 10, now we can take the vacant acreage that's 15 and split another 5 off and give it to somebody who could do something else with it that may or may not now have a little difference in what the zoning now says if you allow manufactured homes. So seems to me we're going down a rabbit hole to circumvent rules, and they're not our rules. But if we can figure out a way, it sounds horrible and it sounds callous, but it's money that's being talked about and avoided right now. Yeah, it's going to cost money to do it the right way, as opposed to working around the loop. So, for what it's worth.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Then we will close the public hearing to public comment and move on to deliberation by commissioners. Me too.
Okay. I'm a little fuzzy about why we're being asked to lower it to 10 acres. In the work that I've done with the Eagle, they have never let me split a piece of property and operate it as 2 separate entities. They have shut me down pretty clearly on that, and I don't know if that's an option that Eagle has approved in this case. But I'm just fuzzy about why we're being asked to lower the acreage to 10, and I'd like more clarity on that. Is it just to give, it's just kind of fuzzy to me. I'm not clear about if we're talking about having 2 separate septic systems, 2 separate waste management systems on the 10 acres, or I'd like some clarity on that.
Do you have clarity?
So I'm going to let the applicant speak to the intent on it, but just to clarify, level set, the current parcel is 25 acres in size, 25 and change. And yes, you're correct. The ask by the applicant is to move the minimum acreage from 15 to 10. Kyle, I'll let you speak to your guys' intent on that.
So, say my name again. Kyle Stoner, San Diego, California. So to directly answer your question about Eagle, so we have a few different options that we're trying to work through right now with our engineers and Eagle and excavators. This allows us an opportunity to continue to explore one of those options. And so if you can visualize the manufactured home community from an aerial perspective, sorry, Pete, from an aerial perspective, and you just split off all of the vacant land, what we would be left with is less than the existing minimum of 15 acres. So I know, I'm sorry, I missed your name. Chris. So Chris, in anticipation of what might happen with these north activity centers in the future because of the master plan that was adopted, if the parcel was never split, then, the development you've all envisioned here in this community would never take place, right? So I bring that up today, and I didn't the last time, I apologize, so that is different. But, if it stayed a 24-acre parcel, then it's going to be a 24-acre parcel into perpetuity, right? And so by lowering the minimum from 15 to 10, that allows some future development potential in anticipation of, your implementation of the master plan that you've adopted. Is that?
That answers my question.
Cool, thanks. Yeah.
It added a little confusion for me.
Okay.
What would be the actual outcome for you if we approved this but didn't change the acreage?
Do you mind if I approach the monitors?
You have to ask Tina.
I do not mind if you
Okay,
pick
yeah, so
one. The one by Pete?
I mean, I'll get into the weeds here if everybody wants to, if that helps.
It would, yeah.
Yeah, which monitor is the best? This one here? This one?
That's fine.
Can you grab a mic there and grab one of those and turn the power on so folks online can hear you?
I don't want to break that.
Thank you, Dan.
You just pull it out.
Bob will break it.
Thank you. So this parcel here is Suburban Estates. It's 24 and some change acres. The existing mobile home community up to here, if you remove what I refer to as the state of Oklahoma, you see that there? It is, right? Yeah. We're left with 12 acres. So it's my understanding that the minimum size of a manufactured home community currently is 15. So, what's the township's plan? What's the existing owner's plan? What's a future owner's plan for this vacant parcel? I don't know. What's the master plan say? If it were ours, and we chose to maintain ownership of the manufactured home community for a longer period of time, we would expand this park. And so we talked a little bit about this the last time. The current infrastructure plan that we have would maximize our wastewater at 20,000 gallons a day, allowing us only 25 more sites. I think that was a concern of some of the folks last time, is that all of this would be manufactured housing community. And so 25, so what does 25 extra sites look like? It looks like an expansion of Orchard Drive with homes here, and it adds homes here along Avenue B. That's it. You wouldn't even know those extra 25 homes existed from Strait or North Long Lake Road. So, Pete, if you guys did not approve the reduction from 15 down to 10, in my brain, two things happen. We lose one of our options for wastewater infrastructure. Fine, not a big deal. It just gives us less to work with, less flexibility, and it might mean more capital, and which might mean more may trickle down to the residents that live there. We can't absorb it all. It's not possible. And then the second thing is that, I think it prohibits, future development of this because you're left with a manufactured home community that's less than the minimum size currently existing under code. Cody, correct me if I screwed any of that up.
And
Oh, so, sorry, so, well, that's part of the request from earlier on in the discussion about the conditional use, which I know is not why I was called up here right now, one of these is removed now, but these are the families that would be displaced here, and we're unable to relocate them, or at least give them the option of relocating with the existing way the code reads, because we're legal non-conforming.
so can you walk through the same exercise with the change to 10 acres? So say we approve the change and the 10 acre, so the conditional use as well as the 10 acre minimum.
Yeah,
sorry,
how is it better? I don't.
I think I just answered that question, no?
No,
I don't think so.
you didn't.
What would the 10 acres look like?
Oh, well, no, so the 10 acres is just the reduction in your code. Right now, it's a 15-acre minimum for a manufactured housing community, is that correct, Cody?
Yeah.
Okay,
But-
so if I took off Oklahoma, I'm only left with 12.
Okay.
So if we change it to 10, now you've got 12 and 12.
That's correct.
What happens to the second 12? Anything you want, or is it?
Well, I mean, anything by code.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And by the way, this is not a parcel split discussion that we're having here tonight. That's a whole separate process, right? Yeah, so,
But I mean, you've heard people say we're looking for more affordable housing. You're an
Sure.
affordable housing guy.
yeah, so, I mean, if it was us, more manufactured housing would take place here, but we are limited to only an additional 25 sites based on our current plan for wastewater expansion. It's only 25 sites, here and here. That's it.
And if Eagle approves something different, you may be able to do more.
No, what we're up against is already too capital intensive to put in more. For our group, there is no option to do more. Zero.
So if you added the 25 sites,
And I apologize, sorry,
Go
Dan,
ahead.
before you get in, it's actually only a net 20 because, these 5 that remain are accounted for up here. So it's only a net 20 addition.
so if you add the net 20, how many acres is that going to occupy then? Isn't that going to get you close to 15 acres?
That's a good point. It may very well, I actually don't have that calculation off the top of my head. I did not factor that in. So it'd be here and there. So yeah, it may very well.
So then you'd end up with a 15-acre parcel and a 9-acre parcel.
Cody, are they able to recommend without that one specific thing, or would we have to do this all again?
No, the planning commission is allowed to recommend to the board any version of your application. So if they say, we recommend it with the provision that we change this wording, the township board can choose to enact just the first part. If they want to change the underlying zoning to a conditional use but not change the minimum acreage, that can be done.
Okay.
I'm just going to make a comment that if we're having trouble understanding it, you better wait till it gets to the township board, because they're not used to this at all.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
just saying.
Yeah.
That's all.
I think part of the calculation that'd be helpful to revisit too is the Eagle requirements, and I think I don't recall exactly what the difference was, but it seemed to be that historically they didn't account for flow the way they would now. So I think it'd be, and I work with Eagle, I understand so I think there's like can commissioners and public need to understand, there's a maximum carrying capacity of that 25 acres, doesn't matter if it's 12 and 12 or, 10 and 15, so that the 20 additional units, that's kind of essentially what you're allowed to get to what the land can handle based on Eagle's requirements. And you're not trying to, and we're not either, trying to get around any Eagle rules. We're trying to help you accommodate them.
I think if it's helpful, what I would say is when I was here in February, said differently, we have an additional wastewater option that we did not have in February when we were here. So if it makes it easier for you, I'm speaking unilaterally here without talking to my group, we would be okay if you did not recommend the reduction from 15 to 10, if that makes it easier. Thus taking the confusion and the questions out of the equation.
Are we done with questions for him?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You may be seated.
I just wanted to bring a visual up for the
Thank you.
public and also you folks maybe to have a little clarity. Kyle, I understand it's a bit abstract as far, you could go to the podium if you don't mind. Unless you want to join the board and move and, okay. So I made a brief sketch. Obviously, I'm not a surveyor, so it's with a grain of salt, but the orange rectangle that you can see, and again, this is tentative, that's 16 acres currently. So depending on how the site would lay out, that kind of thing, Kyle's group may be able to make something work without that minimum, but that is just in general. I don't want to speak for you, but.
There'd also be a reduction based on whatever the Grand Traverse County Road Commission does to the southern portion of our property too, so.
Which
we're
would all
probably
be-
splitting hairs around 15 acres.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'd all be fleshed out through the
Yeah.
land division application
Yeah.
process. Just wanted to bring clarity. Thank you. I'll give this back.
Thank you.
Good?
Now we're done.
All right.
We'll let you know.
All right.
Cody, can I ask you, is it really important whether we deal with acreage or not? If Eagle's going to step in and make decisions about the septic and the well, or is it as important for us, do you think?
So acreage will be important based on a minimum size. So if you decide to recommend 10 acres, that means Suburban Estates has to cut off 10-acre minimum to continue to operate or apply for conditional land use. If you keep it at 15, then they would have to cut off 15 acres in order to do that. I'm not familiar with Eagle's requirements, what they would require for that, but septic is totally regulated by them. We wouldn't have a say in how they regulate the septic.
The reason I ask the question is if as a group of planning commissioners, we decide to go forward with this, I wouldn't want to do something that precluded them from being able to get the septic and well thing that they want, right? So.
Understood.
I do have another
No,
question.
that's okay.
Does 25 units put you above 20,000 gallons a day?
No,
Okay.
that would be 200 gallons per site per day.
Okay.
So let's take this in two pieces, right? So as far as the part of the request, which would be changing the verbiage to include manufactured housing and the local business as a conditional use, are there thoughts on just that part? Or concerns about that part? Yes?
I have no concerns about it.
I'm philosophically opposed, but practically supportive because of what it accomplishes for us as a township. But if we were to start from square one and say, how should this be zoned? We wouldn't say we want to plan for manufactured housing in our local business districts. That said, we've got something in place that's, I think, good for the township, and it brings higher density to the activity center when that happens. And so my philosophical and practical natures are at war. My wanting to be a good planning commissioner and wanting to do what's right for the community kind of are not in balance here. So overall, I think that's the good thing to do, but I think that we risk setting ourselves up for putting things as, in zoning that aren't what we would plan if we were doing it from scratch.
I understand what you're saying. So my thought, though, is this is a non-conforming use. So anybody who hasn't read the non-conforming use part of what you're allowed to do is like nothing. So literally, they can't even, if they go to do the road, they can't really even take out those 5 or 6 that are along the road because they're non-conforming. So that part, if it's a use that makes sense to me, it doesn't make sense to keep it non-conforming. So for that reason, I would be in favor, for sure, of that. The other part, I have to tell you, I didn't feel confused about the 5 and 10, or the 10 the acres in February, and now I'm like so confused. So I'm looking at Bob, because Dan Paulson and I have had some really bad experiences with Eagle, so I have to say that does taint my belief that anything would ever work with Eagle. But you're the guy who has some idea of what they're talking about, and what do you feel about that?
Well, I don't think the 15 and 10 question really plays into the Eagle part of it. It's, Eagle, they look at what they look at, and they don't care what the
So philosophically,
planning is of it.
so back to the philosophical part again, is we're not here to make a decision based on a particular piece of property, or particular thing, right? We don't have a plan in front of us that says this is what we want to do. We're looking at, does this belong where it is? And so, I mean, I guess I don't have the same feeling that I wouldn't put a mobile home community in there if it were something new and nice, because, I work with homelessness, so I'm like all about affordable housing. But I don't like the idea of changing an acreage the same way. I don't feel the same way about that. I feel like that's too specific to the applicant.
I tend to agree with that because on several projects, I've proposed to Eagle that I split a piece of property so that we can conform and keep it under 20,000 gallons a day, and they've just flat out said that will never, ever happen. And I would hate to see us lower the minimum acreage on the dream that might happen, and then find ourselves in a whole new environment that we didn't intend ourselves to. So I would be in favor of keeping the 15-acre requirement, but certainly in favor of making it a use in commercial.
I really don't have an opinion about the acreage one way or another. I am a little concerned that maybe there could be some unintended consequence that I'm not seeing, but I'm not really too worried about that. But I am thinking back to the last time a business was proposed in this business district. It met with a lot of opposition from the community, and we actually enacted a moratorium over this exact area. So to me, I kind of feel like the infrastructure is there, the use is there. It seems to fit pretty well to me for what the community needs and what the property owner is willing to do. So.
And we haven't heard any real opposition to it, I think, in what you were saying, that nobody's here going, don't do it, don't do it. So, what are your thoughts, Bob?
I agree with Dan. I think the use is there, it fits. Acreage issue, I'm not real committal one way or the other, but I think keeping it kind of, I don't want to, if the 10 acres gives them another option, I'm okay with that. Eagle's going to do what Eagle does regardless. And that whole part, that area is, the carrying capacity is based on what their calculations work out to be.
Well,
No, I think leaving the acreage change out makes the most sense to me as well.
so that would mean, I think we're ready for me to entertain a motion.
I want to just,
Yeah, go ahead.
A couple things, I was reading the master plan, and throughout the master plan, there's a lot of comments and things about how we want to retain and create affordable housing. And that's kind of woven through the whole master plan. But there's a few things where it says that there should be allowances for redevelopment or reasonable expansion. It says that a couple of times in different places. It talks about it in different ways. But as I was reading through it, it talks about relocation, it talks about expansion, but it also talks about relocation with expansion. And it talks about expansion in the current location. So that it's kind of like reading the Bible. You can look and find things that support what you want to think in a lot of different places. But I think the kind of the main thrust that I got from reading the master plan is that affordable housing kind of is the overriding thing for me here.
Definitely for me. So, motion, anybody? Cody? You can't
Just-
make motions.
I can't make motions, but I just want to make a quick comment. So Michigan Zoning Enabling Act is the law that works us through this process. Your motion is actually going to be a resolution that you
Oh,
adopt.
that's right.
So your resolution that was prepped for you by staff is number 022602. I understand there's a February date on that. That will be changed before it gets signed, if you make a resolution tonight. But that's the resolution you'll be making to whatever you guys choose to recommend or not to recommend to the township board. So I just wanted to, it's going to be a roll call vote, so I'll call on you individually when you guys are ready.
So I believe we're talking about a motion. that-
Copy of that was in our,
Yeah, here it is.
It's on page 68 if you have a digital copy.
But we would only be approving part of the application.
So just to jump in from procedure-wise, if you guys are looking to recommend to the township board to approve in part the application, you'll want to do that, state that with resolution number, and then we'll take a roll call vote to do that.
I think they might be struggling over how they would word the part that they only want to approve part of the application.
The way to word it would be you recommend adoption of application of AEI Roaring Fork with the understanding of changing manufactured housing communities to a conditional use in the local business district and not changing the minimum acreage from 15 acres to 10, but remaining the same. And if you just want to say that's what he said.
So moved.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, that's motion by Springsteen and support by Paulson.
All right, I will do a roll call vote here in just a second.
Wait, should we have any other, is there any other discussion before we do that? Just to make sure? Okay.
All right,
thank you.
perfect. Springsteen,
Aye. Yes.
Vershafe,
yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Allen.
Yes. All right, then, so just so everybody, make sure everybody understands that this recommendation will go to the township board because it's a zoning change. They're the ones who will make the final decision on this. So, okay, thank you, everybody. Now we will move on to CLU 052603 and SPR 052604, a request by applicant Liquid H2O Long Lake LLC to amend a previously approved mini warehousing and self-storage conditional land use permit to include operating an open-air business and storage as defined in, it's all on your agenda. Subject property is 10138 North Long Lake Road. It's zoned general business, and they are looking to add outdoor storage. So Cody, presentation by you.
Okay. There's quite a few documents in your packet, so forgive me while I go through just kind of explaining how everything is divvied up. But to every topic that we have, I make a summary insert, and it will go through the overview, what your possible actions are, and then those attachments. So for this discussion tonight, I've included a public hearing notice, the application and packet from the applicant, historical information, because this property has come before the Planning Commission 2 previous times, one with the original conditional land use in '22 and a second in '23. I also listed some master plan excerpts that are applicable, and then the natural inventories area map, and my memo kind of summarizes all that up. So that is all the documentation we have. I think it's almost 100 pages, so we'll get through it. But the applicant is asking, in 2022, they came and got an approval for mini warehousing and self-storage. So that was proposed and approved conditionally by the Planning Commission at the time, and it was approved with conditions that are outlined in that first permit, PCL 082808. And forgive me, there's, I think, 8 or 11 of them on that first permit. I'm not going to go through each one. That was with the site plan that's dated 10/18/22, and I included the commissioner minutes from September of '22, so you can see how that meeting took place. And I tried to highlight it for you guys so you didn't have to read things that weren't applicable. Later in February 28, 2023, applicant came back with 2 requests, and I'll let them clarify if I get this wrong, but the requests were to increase some of the self-storage sizes, so it would be a different use, so they have to get the approval from the Planning Commission on that. And then they're also phasing in their buildings. So they have 5 phases across 16 buildings. The second part of that application in February of '23 was to allow for outdoor staging, outdoor storage in the next stage. So for example, they're building stage 1, and then while they're building stage 1, stage 2 would be able to be outdoor storage, and then that would be sequenced through. So when they're building stage 2, they'd have outdoor storage in phase 3. So that is my understanding of the application that was brought in '23. That was accepted in part. The Planning Commission at the time approved the larger storage size, but they denied the outdoor storage portion of that was sequenced. This application that's brought forward is...
Yeah, I had a question, Cody.
Yeah.
Is that outdoor storage just for construction materials, or is it general outdoor storage?
My understanding is the request was for outdoor storage use, so it would be for their clients and customers to store their belongings. Then this application that's been brought forth before you is a variation. They're asking in phase 5, which is up front, to ask for outdoor storage in the site plan provided. You can see the graveled area. They have tentative parking spaces. As part of this application, they have proposed putting a vegetative buffer on the portions of the south and east parcel lines, not in whole, but in part. And they provided renderings to show what that would look like. Thank you, Matt. The top picture right now is what we're currently looking like. What they're proposing to add for vegetative buffer is this would be the first year, and then there's also a 5-year growth out that shows. So that is the current proposal. This is in the West Activity Center, so it does hit quite a few portions of the ordinance, and that's why there's so much paper to come with you. But I did do my best to summarize every point for you in the memorandum. And like every conditional land use, it is subject to our general standards. It's also subject to the specific use standards. Specific use standards are in 19.39, open air and business storage. Our conditional standards, our general standards are the same across the board that we look at every application. And then we also have to look at the general standards for approving the site plan, which is 24.5. In my conclusions, I think I left a few things you will want to discuss. I call out things if it's not clear. So for instance, one of the requirements of site-specific is talking about lights and downshielding. One of the conclusions I put was the applicant submitted parking plan does not show location of any new additional lights. You might want to confirm with the applicant if they're doing that. I also list things if they have presented this to the county soil erosion or county health department, probably not as of yet. They're most likely waiting for approval, but if they do get approved, we will need new copies of those permits if they need to be amended. The biggest one is the Township Master Plan and Activity Sub-Area Plan address the West Activity Center and its uses fairly specifically. These related passages can be found in your commissioner packets. Specifically, they're on pages 67, 677, and 78 of the master plan, and 7, 10, 26, 27, and 28 of the Activity Center subplan. So you got a lot of reading before you, and I hope to highlight that for you. And then I said it should be noted that in the minutes of the February 28 meeting, one of the commissioners' comments was outdoor storage is incompatible with the character of the West Village Center area as described in the master plan. That was their opinion as of 23. Since 23, we have made this sub-center activity plan, so that will need to be taken into consideration if that still applies. And then lastly, there are no priority natural features in this area. They are buffered, or not buffered, they are adjacent land that have priority areas, but as of now, there is no natural features on this property. That was a very long-winded explanation, so please, I invite questions as they come up, because I'm sure I didn't touch everything, so.
Anything right now for Cody? Clarification? Okay. So applicant.
I got you.
Comments and explanations by the applicants.
I'm going to have to sit because I've got a really bad back injury, so it's been an interesting couple days. But anyway, I'm Adam Orth, president of the Long Lake Storage Vault and Liquid H2O, located at the 10138 North Long Lake Road. When we applied initially for back in 22 and 23, we always had in our business plan to do the outdoor storage. It's something that, you know, most storage facilities have part of their business plan in. I started the Hammond Road Storage Vault about 10 years over on Hammond Road, and it's people utilize that a lot for their boats and RVs and campers and just general trailer type stuff. It goes well in the community. When we first applied for the application and got approval, I think most of the board members were in favor of having the outdoor storage, but one of the guys on the board said that, well, how do we know if we approve this with the 4 buildings and the outdoor parking that you guys aren't just gonna, put up a parking lot, never do the buildings? And that kind of raised some ears, and they said, well, how about we do this? We approve you guys for the buildings and not the outdoor storage, because they wanted to see some progress. They wanted us to see the buildings put up, see what it looks like, and from there, they said, once you're open for business, come back and reapply for the outdoor storage. So that's what we're here to do. We've followed all the guidelines and everything set forth for permits and the township rules and regulations, and we've done everything. And so I guess based on being told that we're going to get approved once we did the buildings, that's why we're here. Also with, I've been to a couple of the other meetings here lately, and we've had a lot of people that have been calling since we've been open for a year now, calling the office wanting to know if they can park their boats and RVs and stuff outside. And we say, well, we can't because we're not approved yet. And those people are kind of disappointed that they don't have a place to put their stuff. A lot of the communities, housing areas and stuff, you can't have a camper, you can't have a boat, you can't have a snowmobile trailer or anything like that in your yard or the side driveway because it's not permitted in that community. So, there's people that have these things and they have nowhere to put them. One of the biggest things that I've heard from a couple of the meetings that I've sat in on is trying to figure out with the boat launch and stuff on Long Lake. There's people parking, along the road that's probably less than a half a mile from our site, It's kind of dangerous. People are coming over the hill, and there's boats and trailers and vehicles parked there at the park, and it's kind of chaotic and dangerous. So, why not have a place for people in the community to come and park their stuff? They could carpool, they could walk, they could ride a bike. I think that would cut down a lot of congestion and stuff on that area and probably be a help. There really isn't that I know of, besides Sonny's place at Wheelocks there, that had outdoor storage that he's been doing for years. So, this would be a permitted legal way of going about it, and I think keep people from having to drive all the way out to Chum's Corners or, out to a farther distant spot that might have outdoor parking and stuff. And you think about all the wear and tear on the roads and environment of burning fossil fuels and, wear and tear on the vehicle and all that. I mean, if you've got people in the community that's right in their backyard to store it, why not? It's a storage facility that's already there. We put up a nice green buffer. I think looking at the pictures, I think it definitely improves the view of the site, kind of hides anything that's going on back there, and I don't know, it fits well with the business plan that we got approved for. So, I guess that's pretty much the rundown.
Anybody have any questions you'd like to ask right now? Okay, thanks.
When you say business plan, you're talking about like a economic development plan, not necessarily a plan that we review and approve, something your bankers might have reviewed? I just want to make sure it's clear that I don't think we ever saw anything that had outdoor storage on it.
On the first, when we came to get approval, we had talked about doing the outdoor storage and stuff on the facility as phases go on, to have campers and RVs and boats and stuff parked on the outside. We have units that are bigger that you can put small, like jet skis and snowmobile trailer type stuff, but we don't have anything like for a, like say a fifth wheel or a, camper type thing. These are mini storage units, so they're, 10 foot wide and up to 30 feet deep, but the height restriction is the problem. It's, these doors are only 8 foot tall, so, even getting a pontoon boat in there could be a little bit of a stretch. You got to take the top off, and definitely like a ski boat that has like an radar arch on it, those are going to fit, 10, 12 feet tall. So there's just, not even an option for them to get them in there. And some of these boats are, even though the unit's 10 feet wide, the door's only 8.
But there is no site plan we approved that had outdoor storage on it.
Right, no, you didn't approve it.
I just want to make sure that's clear.
Right, it didn't get approved because they wanted to see the buildings get done and didn't want to approve it and say, and have us just put the parking lot up and then not do the buildings was what the...
But the planning commission doesn't approve business plans. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Well, I guess maybe I misworded it, sorry.
And Bob's been here forever, so he was actually here on both the other times you were
All
here.
right. So, I guess as far as our business plan of what we were intending to do and get approved was where we were going.
I do have a question while we have you. So, you listed like 3 things that would be stored there, right? Boats, RVs, was there one other thing? Are you thinking of anything else?
Well, it would be boats, RVs, snowmobile trailer, like enclosed trailers, which could be snowmobile trailers or a job site trailer, a car, a truck. Sometimes there's, maybe like a moving truck or something, van. These would all be, licensed and registered, Michigan approved, vehicles with insurance on them and stuff that are
And you don't
roadworthy.
You don't have units that these things fit in?
Not enclosed units are covered.
I'm talking about enclosed.
Yeah, they wouldn't be that. They would be designated parking spots that we would have.
No, I know, I'm just asking, instead of having it outdoor, do you have plans to, I didn't look at the sizes enough of all of your units. Are they planned to fit any of these things internally?
In future phases, there could be, but, we would always want to have outdoor storage for economic purposes for people. Some people can't afford to put their stuff inside, but they still need the storage. And some of it's a temporary thing. It's something where, maybe they have a place that they, have 15, 20 miles away from the lake, and they put it in a pole barn, but for taking it out fishing and stuff like that, it doesn't make economical sense for them to drive it back and forth, where you would want to rent a spot there for their fishing boat, hook onto it, bring it down to the launch it, and then drive it back, and then walk down to the boat launch and use their fishing boat for the afternoon or weekend or something.
So one other question was just, why did you choose it in the front like that? So everybody can see it.
Well, because it makes the most amount of sense, because we've got gravel and stuff down already up there. Second of all, for coming into the site, it's a lot easier to come in and access that front area. Everything else around on the outside is all sugar sand. I mean, it's super soft. And in order to build out the rest of the complex, there's got to be water and sewer done, gravel put down, asphalt and all that. So it doesn't make sense to put it in a location that would then have a building going in. You put it up, get people's, say you put 30 or 40, vehicles and trailers and stuff there. And then in a couple years, when we want to put another building up, we got to do something with those items, and you can't just move them that easily and then tear up everything to put the infrastructure in. So it makes the most amount of sense to put it up front there and shield it with trees, and it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind type thing behind there.
But that was proposed for 2 buildings. That's what's approved right now.
That's on the very, very final phase. That would be like the very end of everything. So then at that point, it would be something where we would have buildings built that would be larger for these types of items to be stored in, that then at that point we would say, okay, your options are you can move these into indoor storage so that we can put something up front. I think initially up front, and it's how many years down the road, but kind of had that slated for something that would work into kind of like smaller business type stuff, or not related generally to maybe the storage industry, but it's years down the road.
Well, that was actually my other question, like in what years were you planning on putting in those 2 buildings?
I'll shake a crystal ball. I'm not sure, but
So it could be 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that, it's like slated to be 5 years from now. I mean,
Okay.
it's going to be a long-term thing, and, it's just, and maybe it's something that it just doesn't make sense to do anything else besides just leave it the way that it is. And then by that time, those trees, they grow, a half a foot a year. So, I mean, those trees will grow 25, 30 feet tall, and you wouldn't see anything back there, so.
Okay, thanks. Does
Yeah.
anybody else have any questions for him? All right, thank you. We'll see if anybody has anything.
Okay.
All right, then it is time to open the public hearing to public comment. Do we have any public comment? Oops, I think he took your...
Most people would appreciate it. I'll just hold it. Chris Crew, 3016 Collier Road. I think the 2022 meeting said no outdoor storage. The 2023 said no outdoor storage. On both of the site plans that I saw, it did say that there was supposed to be trees put in buffers. Now, apparently it didn't make it into the actual permit part, but there was a lot of discussion, if I looked at the meeting notes, that they wanted to make sure that that was done. From what I read on the comments that came in, the note that came in from the resident that lives adjacent to it, it didn't sound like that has been done, because there's been there's issues with seeing construction materials and seeing debris and seeing that it's not been buffered. So some of the stuff that could have been done or should have been hasn't been, even on their own site plan. The site plan that I saw always had, 16 buildings on it. So it's never had less than that. It was shown in phases before, but it never showed anything with any kind of any kind of open-air parking. It also said in Cody's note, too, it said that the proposal was for long-term storage for vehicles. But what I just heard was it's going to be an in-and-out service now for getting away from stuff on the road, which is going to change the road density and the traffic pulling around and pulling in and out of there. I don't know if that's what you want it to be, a parking lot, which is what it's going to be, or not. And I don't know if a parking lot as it sits, if it has to be paved or not. So the other thing, too, is putting up a bunch of trees in a soldier course. I don't know. I heard that it would have to have irrigation and septic and all that other kind of stuff for the next phase of buildings. But those are going to be sticks of dead arborvitae by the time we don't have a couple of days or a couple of weeks worth of rain. So I don't know if there's provisions to maintain that or not. Other than that, it's going to look like debris. And then I don't know what the replacement plan would be in order to make that. But from an in-out service in an active parking lot, I would assume that he's going to charge for the use of that in the interim. But I can't imagine that it's going to be nothing but a lot of activity back and forth. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
There it's on. Sonny Wheelock, 9954 North Long Lake Road. As the previous owner to the parcel of property that we're talking about, I can tell you that for the last 50 years, there's been outdoor storage on that property. On an average year, we probably housed 18 to 20 pontoon boats. They would be shrink wrapped and stored along the pines in the wintertime. And then in the summertime, the people put the boat in the water and they bring their trailer back and store it for the summer. Not just pontoon boats, but regular boats. We had some job trailers that were in and out. We had some people in the neighborhood had utility trailers that they stored, for 6 months or whatever the time be. The utility trailers tended to come in and out a lot during the year, so it became a little bit of an issue trying to track which trailers were here this weekend and which ones were gone. But I do know that, historically, a lot of boats, boat trailers, and pontoon boats were stored on that site in and out during the course of the year. When Adam come to us about the proposal, I had told him at that point we would stop storing boats on the property. That was part of the deal. I did, however, reserve the right to store some boat docks and hoists on the property just simply because of physical space that they take up. Raintree Forest dock of 32 sections and 18 boat hoists takes quite a bit of space that he simply didn't have between his buildings. So, we still store just basically some docks and a number of boat hoists. I think I've got one utility trailer, job type trailer that's been there probably close to 10 years. It hasn't been out of the driveway since it came there. I had a sailboat that had been there almost 30 years, and I finally got paperwork through the state and had it crushed and disposed of because it was not fit to use, and it was becoming a problem, just trying to fall apart around itself out in the field. So we had it destroyed and got rid of the scrap. But typically, we would store 15 to 20 pontoon boats a year, and that service is not available to our neighbors anymore. And I'm sure that I have neighbors that would more than gladly have a place to store their pontoon boat, because most of our homeowners associations and our local subdivisions don't allow you to park your camper or your pontoon boat alongside your garage anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Can I ask Adam a question? Could you talk about...
No,
I can't.
not right now.
Okay.
We're during public comment.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Is there any other public comment? Sorry, Pete.
Sorry.
My name's Jim Drake. Is that better? Yeah, okay, there we go. My name's Jim Drake. I live at 1211 Cerro Drive in Traverse City, Michigan. I manage the Long Lake Storage Vault as well as the Hammond Road Storage Vault in Traverse City. Hearing comments about people coming in and out with trailers and stuff, yes, it does happen. But in support of what Sonny just said, we have people who store their trailers all summer long, and then they might pull them out in the fall and go to Arizona or go wherever. Boats, it's a little more towards that pull in, pull out. I have a couple, we do that. But it's on Hammond Road, which is an extremely busy road, and it's easy to see as far as traffic-wise, though it is busy and high density. We've never had any issues or any problems in the 4 years that I've been there of anybody having even close to an accident coming and pulling out. What I'd also like to say is, as far as business, the business interest is there. I take calls, especially in late summer and fall, for people looking to store boats, RVs, even sometimes utility trailers that construction people have. So there is a need for it in this community, and I think that's only going to grow as growth does occur out here, especially when you're talking about high-density housing. I don't know what other projects might be out in that area between there and Lake Ann, but that is going to increase, and you're going to have limitations, like they say, with what you can have in a high-density area as far as boats and RVs. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing to public comment. Now, Pete, during our deliberation by commissioners, is there a clarification you would like to ask of the applicant?
Yes. Cody brought up at the beginning lighting, and we didn't really talk about it, or I didn't hear it. Are you planning to do any additional lighting?
Well, we wanted to do lighting in the beginning of our project, but we got told that we couldn't do lighting. So we would like to do lighting if you guys approve it.
I think the point was to not disrupt the neighborhood. You know, if you did lighting, that would be down lighting.
Yeah, if we did anything and we're approved for it and you guys want us to, then we could do the, typical, down lighting for what's, what do they call it?
Night sky.
Night sky lighting, but yeah.
And then one of the public comments talked about keeping the plants alive. What's your plan for that?
Well, I also own a large landscaping outdoor service company, so we do irrigation on everything, and I've never had any arborvitaes ever die that I know of. We've planted thousands of them, and we always require our customers to make sure they have an irrigation system to keep them alive, and we fertilize them and properly trim them, prune them, and everything else. So
You'd require your own business to do that then, is that what you're saying?
That would probably be the best business decision to do, yes.
But that would be something that you could require if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's putting trees, and it's obviously a big investment, so we need to make sure that they're watered, and it's not an issue to do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody else want to say anything? I actually have a couple of questions, but I'm going to wait for you guys to talk first. Are you playing the piano?
I got a question. On the site plan,
Or who are you asking?
Sorry, Adam.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Adam. On the
Yes.
site plan, the east buffer only extends partway up the property, or the area under consideration for outdoor storage is, is there existing landscaping or trees there?
No, there isn't. What I did was I drove down the road and took pictures as I was kind of coming up from like what it would look like visually from the road. And that seemed to be about where, because it sits up on a hill, so you can't, when you're down at the road elevation and you look up, you can't see that area. And plus it's getting blocked by the building next door to us as you're coming up. So it's, really the only, you can see it That would be the farthest point, which is actually right at the entrance going into the Dollar General next to us. And you see where on where the tree line goes to the buildings. It's just the angle of where you're coming up the road, and having those trees go to that point block anything that's from there over to the left towards the west. It didn't make any sense to extend that all the way over there because it's not blocking anything from the road.
You're going to say yes, it is. I can
Well,
see that blue building.
No, I'm just,
Okay, you have your answer. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I actually do have a question of you, Cody. In that the letter that we received, and then I went back over the different, minutes that you gave us for the 4,000 meetings. And there was one this one was in, I think, the very first one, where they talked about, putting up trees. It didn't seem to get in the final permit when we saw that and carried forward, but it looked like the actual motion did say that there should be trees. And I wondered if you have checked to see if those trees are there, if they were planted, and if they're alive, because the second time around, it sounded like they hadn't been again.
So, to my understanding, there has been no installation of a vegetative buffer, and Adam can confirm that if he needs. When I was first asked about this, when I first got on before, obviously wasn't here when this applied, the way that it's worded talks about applicable buffer that's listed in the zoning ordinance. And the zoning ordinance says if you're between two commercial properties, you do not have to buffer between them. So the first property to the west of the subject property actually has a single-family residence on it currently,
Yes.
but is zoned
Commercial.
commercial. So if you go by the letter of the book, there's no vegetative buffer that's needed between the two. So if the planning commission desired to put buffering to between that, they did not specify it on the motion or permit to make the applicant put new buffering between two commercial entities. That said, there is a residentially zoned property to the west of that, and the minimum standard for a buffer, and forgive me, I'm not going to remember this exactly, but I think it's 3 trees every 50 feet.
Yeah.
There's existing 3 trees every 50 feet already on that west residential lot, buffering between the commercial and residential.
So, Bob, since you're the only one that was at everything, the second meeting then, the second time they looked, there was one where one of the, just a second, this might be it. Rademacher reminded the applicant that the 20-foot buffer requirement was the applicant's alone and not the neighbors. So I know that there was another discussion that sounded like they didn't think that that happened, but we don't have a record that they changed that then? So it's the use, it's not the use of the property that they have to buffer, it's the zoning of it. Okay, I bet that wasn't clear to the,
It may not have been, but I don't want to
Planning
speculate because I wasn't
Yeah.
here for those meetings.
because it sounded like they were pretty dang strong about it. Okay. That was my question. And I'm going to let everybody else say stuff first. Pete, you must have something you're thinking.
Well, I don't have any more questions.
No, but this is deliberation.
Yeah, I know. I'm deliberating. I think that pretty clearly they show a need for the service. And I think that with the buffer, it's actually more attractive with the buffer than it is without the buffer. So if the plants were already there, it would be easier. And so as a conditional use, I think if we were to put some pretty specific conditions on about the buffering, I probably would be supportive of it.
Bob?
I'm looking just to how the activity center plan kind of fits this. I know the second meeting, I think in general, we were kind of heading that direction of allowing them, and then it took a hard left. when Mike piped up. So I know that was before the activity center was enacted. So I guess I'd just like a little more explanation of what the master plan says about this.
So the activity center subplan mentions what I thought was applicable in 3 locations. They're all under section 4, which is vision goals and objectives. It's page 148 of your packet, or it's page 26 of the activity center subplan. Activity center vision, it says West Activity Center, maintain the rural character while improving the natural environment, traffic, and community beautification. So that's the first portion where it comes up that's applicable. Excuse me, the second is on page 27, which is 149 in your packet, next page down, it talks about planning and development. The main goal for planning and development in these areas is maintain a balance between the natural environment and development, residential and commercial. And then it lists objectives to try to execute in order to reach that goal. Those objectives are encourage site design and plans that preserve and protect natural assets, create design standards for commercial development. Obviously, this is more intensive than an application process, but those are the objectives that are listed there for planning and development. And then the third bucket is on page 28 or 150 of your packet, and it talks about commercial and economic development. The goal listed is future developments in the activity centers will enhance the existing quality of life for all who live, work, and play in Long Lake Township. The objectives for those are encourage buffer strips of native vegetation between adjacent and non-commercial, support existing businesses through increased signage opportunities and uses that benefit local businesses, allow for additional uses and expansion of existing businesses to support them, allow for locally owned businesses uses such as coffee shop, restaurant, etc., and then limit commercial development to 500 square feet of floor area. Those are the 3 biggest sections of the sub-area plan that speak to this area. And then the master plan talks about the West Activity Center fairly vaguely, and that can be found on, let's see, page 78 of the master plan or 145 in your packet. It's I can read it all if you'd like, but it's a full page of activity center descriptions.
I see where it can, we're encouraging an expansion of an existing use. I mean, that side is kind of a mixture of different types of uses, and it's kind of been there for a while, so I can see where it could fit.
Dan's?
I have no concerns with what's being proposed. It's a gravel parking lot right now. The only difference is it's going to be a gravel parking lot with stuff parked on it. I don't know what's being parked on it today. And there'll be some landscaping there to buffer it.
Hard to hear you, Dan.
Sorry, I forgot to turn my mic on. I just said I have no issue with what's being proposed. It's a gravel parking lot right now. They're proposing to put some buffering in there and park some stuff on the gravel parking lot. They're already parking things there now, so. I wasn't here for the previous deliberations. I don't have any context for that, but I don't have any concerns with what's being proposed, so.
I don't have any concerns either. I would like to see a requirement for an ongoing maintenance for the, for the vegetative boundary, because arborvitaes do die. I think you probably replaced a couple in front of your house, I think, didn't you?
Oh, they got hit by,
They got hit by a drunk driver and took them out. But as far as replacing any of them, I only had to replace them because there was an Escalade up on the top and took out about 10 of them. But as far as the original ones I planted, they were about 4 or 5 foot tall, and I never ended up having to replace any of those dead ones. So,
Yeah.
But we keep the water going to them. That's the biggest thing, is water.
Yeah, I think the vegetative barriers is important.
I don't want to get specific, but I don't think they're that good looking. I think you could get more creative maybe, but it does improve the look, so, and it's your call. I'm in favor of
I
restrictions.
looked at doing like bigger pines, but the problem with the pines is you can only plant them so close together before the root system intertwines. And then what happens is you don't get 100% blockage. So you've got triangles. So as those trees grow out, you got to put those, if you're planting 6-foot trees in the beginning, you've got to plant those about 10 feet on center. So you've got like a, 4 to 6 foot area in between the points on the bottom where the triangle is. So you can visually see through those a lot. And then what happens is as they grow up, then they will start to fill in, but then as they fill into each other, the bottoms die off. So I've had huge success with doing the arborvitaes. I personally like them because they grow quick. You're a foot to a foot and a half a year. Like a blue spruce is only going to grow 4 to maybe 6 inches a year. And then the problem is once those trees start to get taller, the bottoms start to die off too. So then it's not too long, and then you got a whole bottom row that's dead on the bottom. Arborvitaes always stay fully green all the time, and they just kind of do their thing, and they grow up really quick. And I personally like them. I think they're great, but
I think they look good as far as, they block the visual view. But
Unless you have another question.
I do have a suggestion.
A suggestion?
A suggestion, yeah. If you, as a landscaper, would consider looking at native Michigan deer-resistant shrubbery for that barrier, that'd be a plus, I think.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. So I don't like it. I don't like this proposal. And Sonny, I love you, but I don't think Wheelox looks all that great from the road either. But I can't change it, nor is it my place to change it at this point. But I don't understand why, when there's a lot of property back there, and by the way, I do rent a unit, so you might recognize me. I was there today getting my golf cart, but I put it inside. So my concern is that not only is there a need for people in the community want to rent space for boats and trailers and all these different things we've had, but there's also, as Sonny mentioned, there's docks, there's hoists, there's a lot of things that would look really different than a bunch of boats lined up. So I think my concern is that just isn't the place for it. There's nothing about that property is preserving any natural features, so I can't say, oh, let's preserve a natural feature. That's done. But certainly, and they really aren't the rural character, which is all the things that we call out for that place, right, that area. So then it makes it a little bit difficult to do that. But I don't understand, and you kind of explained it, but I was trying to look today, like, why in the heck aren't they putting it in the back instead of in the front? And so because of that, visually, I had a really hard time with it. And I think if you do move forward in the way it sounds like everybody is thinking, I'd ask you to consider limiting what kinds of things can be stored there, because it really could end up being all kinds of stuff, like my stuff that I keep at Wheelox. Because this is something we can do something about, but that's just my thought. So, either way, at some point I think about maybe there's some conditions that could be put on it if you're going in that direction.
Cody, what are the options for us putting conditions on the types of things that Tina talked about?
I apologize, I had to step out for a quick second.
I said boats, trailers, the things that were described are one thing, but if they start putting in, docks and hoists and all those other things that there's also a really big need for, is that something we can say or is it not something we can say? Those kinds of things. I also agree with Bob that I think we could use a little bit more vegetation, and I also agree that there should be a plan for making sure that vegetation is maintained, which we just did last month with Clark's. They have to, have a plan for maintaining that vegetation.
Okay, so the easy one first. Vegetative, yes, you can make it a condition that the vegetative buffer is maintained. That's the easy question. The choosing which products they're allowed to store, that would be something I would not feel comfortable on making a decision today. I would ask Todd to weigh in on that. The reason I mention that is because we do classify things like hazardous waste. Obviously, you're not going to store that. It's a completely different use. But our open air business and storage doesn't distinguish between types of products. So just like we don't tell a convenience store which types of product they're allowed to have in the store, I don't know if we're able to tell an outdoor open air storage facility what they're able to store outside, other than height.
We did do that.
Did we do that?
But I'm not saying it was legit, but we did it years ago.
Sure.
On M72.
Then it might be
They
a
had
possibility.
pigs. You
I
know,
just
they had
don't
the-
know
the
enough
propane
to
pigs.
make a confident decision.
Well, I guess my suggestion would be the site plan shows parking spaces, so the storage is limited to vehicles that are licensed, insured, and registered in the state of Michigan within the parking spaces shown. Something like that, if Todd would go with that.
My question is, how do we prove that? It's very hard to enforce.
Right.
You can't go in and run plates illegally. I know that for a fact, so that's tough.
I would say if you're looking to distinguish product type, that staff would recommend talking to the legal team before you make a decision on that.
Because if we don't put some kind of limitations on what this outdoor storage is,
No, I
it could
agree,
be a
yeah.
lot of stuff. Maybe you don't care, but I do.
I recall when we were looking at the recreational vehicles, this was many years ago, I mean, that was a part of the requirements was it had to be licensed, insured, blah, 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 with,
Is this for living inside a recreational vehicle or
No, I
storage of
think
recreational?
just like where you could park your RVs.
Okay.
I forget what section
And that very well may be. I don't feel confident enough to give you a legal opinion on that. I would defer to our legal team.
In our contracts and stuff that we have with our customers, there's stuff that's, listed out that, they can't have, food items there, they can't have hazardous waste, they can't have, there's a list of things that we don't want there either, so, these are parking spots that are set up for these vehicles and trailers.
They can't be non-registered, they can't be parts of cars, they can't be anything like that.
Yeah, they're not allowed to work there on any of their stuff. It's strictly up to park, and it's not.
a list like that would be helpful for us to, kind of close the loop on what a conditional approval might look like. That could also be run by legal.
You're saying you want legal to look at their...
Well, it seems, if their contract requires certain things, and obviously they don't want certain things stored there.
The problem is that a business owner can change their contract with their client at any time without the township's purview. So the question you really want to ask legal is, do you have the right to distinguish between objects stored in open-air businesses? And that's the question that I'm not confident in giving an answer on.
Cody, can we vote on this with things that are open-ended still, or do we have to defer if we haven't made a decision on some of those pieces?
So you can make conditional approvals pending things. So a lot of the times, how common this is like if somebody makes a application and they still need soil erosion approval from the county, a lot of times the planning commission will say, hey, we'll give you your land use based on the fact that you get soil erosion from the county. Because of this use and the distinction between the product type, I don't know that you would want to do that. If you would say because the determination you're looking for legal is A, if you can do that, and then the question becomes B, if you can do that, what are the things outside you guys want to have stored? I wouldn't waste your time going through that motion tonight if you don't know you can do that. So you would want to wait until legal makes that determination. And then you could go from there to make your decision.
Then that would be tabling it until the next time we met.
But again,
If it's something that requires discussion again. Dan?
I mean, are you, I mean, from an economic standpoint, I just don't see that they would want to compromise what little space we're considering for outdoor storage with things like docks or a stack of lumber or something. I'm trying to conceive a scenario in my mind where there would be something that would be offensive to the community that could be stored in this area. I mean, or would it be as simple as saying, like, if we were to entertain a motion for outdoor storage, that it be, items that are wheeled, that would encompass everything from trailers, motorcycles,
To a dock that's got
RVs,
wheels on it, and a hoist that's got
a
wheels
hoist
on
that's
it.
got wheels on it, but if there was a hoist parked that's on wheels, I wouldn't find that offensive, any more than looking at the side of a,
You know what's really funny?
$400,000 RV in there.
You know what's funny, Dan, is you and I agree on so little, yet we like each other so much. I went last month. Yeah, you're on Sonny's Club. On last month when we were looking at Clark's, you were really concerned about what the neighbors, or what people would think, or how there's going to be complaints.
Concerned
Now,
about the uses.
I want you to think about some other places on North Long Lake Road and the complaints that you get from the stuff people store outside, okay? That could be it. It could be that, another that, because there's no limitation to what somebody can store outside. So that's my concern, okay?
But isn't the point of the vegetative buffer to screen that visual annoyance so that if you were to
Did you look
drive
at the
by-
picture even for the first few years? You can still see the trucks that are there. I'm just saying,
Drove by
I
there
think it's funny.
yesterday, and I can see something that's not visually appealing to me, but I don't own the property, I don't pay the taxes, so
But I think the township board will get more complaints about this than they will about a band. I'm just saying. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, I'm just saying, we'll see.
I hear what you're saying.
Let's
I
do,
don't
let's put
agree.
$100 on, no, I'm kidding. So, what, we need a motion, one way or the other, and then we can vote on it unless there are people who are interested in tabling it for more information, which is still a motion. So I don't know.
It sounds like Cody's not comfortable with if we limit what can be stored there without an opinion from legal.
I would agree with
So
that.
I'll make a motion that we table this item until the applicant can provide information regarding what their contract limits and a opinion from our attorney can be rendered regarding limiting the storage of items outdoors, or limiting what items can be stored outdoors.
Is there anybody interested in seconding that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Then we have a motion by Vershave, a second by Paulson to do what you just said. The motion, yeah. To table it until next month so that we can get the copy of the restrictions by the applicant and ask the attorney if we're able to limit what gets stored there. So now we can take it to a vote.
Can
Is
we
there
have
any other discussion? Yes.
I have a question. Can we add in the requirement for vegetation and at this point to this motion?
There's no reason to.
No
It
reason
would go to the final one, yeah. Thank you.
We're basically just putting it on hold.
So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so that motion carries to table till next month. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Pending business, there is none. New business. Cody, you have something on here about a June meeting date?
I do. So staff will not be available at the current June 23rd meeting date at 6 p.m. You guys are welcome to continue to hold your meeting at that time. If you do want staff to be present, there are 2 alternate dates there that I put down. And the bylaws say that if you change a meeting date, it has to be during a meeting, so that's why I'm bringing it to you now. I see everybody's got their phone and calendars out, so I appreciate the check.
I'm either able to do either.
The June 30th works just fine for me. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be able to do July 2nd, but I think it's getting pretty close to the holiday weekend. I can pretty much anticipate some folks might have some issues there. I don't know. We're missing a couple of members tonight, so.
I'm good with the 30th.
I'm good with the 30th.
I could also do the 2nd, but I would hesitate to fully commit to that one.
Perfect. If that works for you and you want to change it, I just need you guys to make a motion and change that if that's what you're looking to do.
I can't make motions.
I'll make a motion to change the June 23rd Planning Commission meeting to June 30th, same place, same time.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Wagner, second by Springsteen. Is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
We are at our second point of public comment. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment on any subject? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to reports. Dan, Township Board report.
We really didn't have anything at our May meeting that I can really relate. It was more of a housekeeping meeting. Approved a few items, some work at the Girl Scout camp, or excuse me, the Twin Lakes Park.
Okay, thank you. Zoning Board of Appeals report would be Max, but he's not here. Do you have anything? You know, meeting? Okay. Then we move on to the planner update report. Cody?
Perfect. I just have a couple things. One, I'd just like to recognize Planning and Zoning staff was asked to speak at the Agribusiness Agritourism Summit provided by Michigan State University Extension 2 weeks ago. So we participated in that. We do still have on the radar to get the tree ad hoc committee back together with anticipation. I heard an update from NFI. They're going to present it to the Township Board in July, so we're hoping to get up for that. Staff was inundated this month, so that still hasn't happened, but Commissioner Springsteen mentioned interest in being on that ad hoc committee. I will work with Pete on getting that convened and a report back to you guys. And that's what we have for Planning Department.
Thank you. Commissioner comments, are there any? Yes. Can we get our packets faster next time? What, you're busy? I know. But maybe have a nice, like, you have to have this in by this date, so we don't.
It's always my goal to get it to you 5 days ahead of time. It doesn't always work out that way, depending on the workload and depending on the number of residents that walk through the door.
Are you happy now? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, thanks.
I made it work.
Uh-huh, yeah.
It worked.
Does anybody have anything else? Okay. All right, then I think we are adjourned. Do I need a motion? I don't, do I? Yeah, motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay. There you go. Support. We're done. Thanks.